Welcome, welcome! Today, we embark on a thrilling exploration of the evidence for evolution. Remember, in this unit, we are discussing the theory of evolution. Now, in science, the term theory is a bit different than the colloquial term. Usually when you hear people say they have a theory, what they really mean is that they have an idea or a guess. Scientific theories, on the other hand, though, are very different. Scientific theories are well-tested and highly reliable scientific explanations of natural phenomena. They unify many repeated observations and data collected from lots and lots of experiments. So, in summation, a lot of supporting evidence is required for something to be dubbed a theory in science. This is because in science, we can never prove something to be true. We can only support hypotheses until we have enough support that we can call them well-founded theories. Make sense? So, for something to be a scientific theory, it needs to have a lot of evidence. Let's spend the rest of this discussion then going over some of the evidence for the theory of evolution. By the end of this discussion, you should be equipped with a deep understanding of how direct observations, fossil records, homology and vestigial structures, and DNA evidence can provide support to substantiate the theory of evolution. Let the journey begin. Let's start by examining direct observations of evolution. In recent times, scientists have witnessed remarkable instances of evolutionary change occurring within short periods, things that we can see in front of us during our own lifetimes several times over. And these observations provide powerful evidence for the process of natural selection in action. Direct observations of evolution include cases such as antibiotic resistance in bacteria, pesticide resistance in insects, and changes in beak size in finches due to environmental factors. These instances clearly demonstrate the impact of natural selection on the survival and reproductive success of individuals with certain traits. Let's actually quickly explore some of these examples of direct observations of evolution. While we go through these together, I want you to pause periodically throughout the video and think about key points in each example that provides supporting evidence for evolution by natural selection. Let's start with antibiotic resistance in bacteria, okay? Over time, bacteria populations have developed resistance to antibiotics, such as penicillin. Initially, most bacteria in the population are susceptible to the antibiotic, right? Due to genetic variation resulting from mutations, though, some bacteria may possess traits that make them resistant to the antibiotic. When antibiotics are used to treat infections, the susceptible bacteria are killed, while the resistant ones, with those mutations, the resistant ones survive and reproduce. The offspring of the resistant bacteria inherit the resistance trait, leading to an increase in the proportion of resistant bacteria within the population. Make sense? Natural selection favors the survival and reproduction of individuals with antibiotic resistance, leading to the evolution of antibiotic-resistant bacterial populations. Make sense? Let's move on to our example with pesticide resistance in insects. Insect populations exposed to pesticides have developed resistance over time. Initially, the majority of insects in a population are susceptible to pesticides. And this makes sense. This is why pesticides were developed. Due to genetic variation, though, some individuals may possess traits that make them resistant to the pesticide, very similar to our bacteria example. When the pesticide is applied, susceptible insects are all killed, while the resistant insects survive and pass on their resistant genes to the next generation. Subsequent generations of insects therefore have a higher proportion of individuals with pesticide resistance. Natural selection acts on the population, favoring the survival and reproduction of insects with pesticide resistance, leading to the evolution of pesticide-resistant insect populations. And these are both examples that we see in real life. And now for our final example, this is a classic one, it's Darwin's finches. All right? So the finches on the Galapagos Islands that were observed by Charles Darwin displayed variations in beak size and shape. Each of these beak sizes and shapes correlated with the bird's specific diets. Different species of finches had varying beak sizes and shapes, and the beak morphology of each species was well adapted for the specific food sources available on their respective islands. In times of drought or food scarcity, certain food sources became very scarce, leading to competition among the finches. Finches with beaks that allowed them to more effectively eat the available food sources had higher survival rates, and therefore more of them reproduced, especially compared to the finches with beaks that were not so well suited for the available food sources. Over time, natural selection favored the individuals with beak adaptations that were most beneficial for obtaining food, leading to the diversification of beak sizes and shapes in different finch species. This was a change in the allele frequency of certain beak characteristics in the finch population that the scientists are able to observe in real time, just in a few seasons. Evolution directly observed in nature. These three examples are just three of many that demonstrate how direct observations provide evidence for natural selection as a driving force of evolutionary change. They highlight the role of genetic variation, differential survival and reproduction, and the inheritance of advantageous traits in shaping populations over time. Now let's turn our attention to fossil evidence.